national football team was for the first time in many years accorded a reception like no other when they arrived from Nigeria. Kenya came close to causing an upset but settled for a 1-all draw with the African champions last Saturday in a The arguments are fast and furious, and it is still just about the rules. It is day one of the presidential petition, and lawyers are armed and ready for what promises to be a week of drama and high-voltage legal arguments. And here at KTN, we are all set to cover for you Kenya's most important legal contest in recent years. At the Supreme Court, we have James Smart, who will be speaking to experts to break down the legal jargon that has graced your TV screens all day. In Kisumu, it was followed by like a football match. Our Fred Omulo is in place with those perspectives. At our City Center studios, Ashamwilu will be telling you how politicians are preparing for the outcome, whatever it is. And right here in our analysis studio, Luyo Teno has a panel that will be looking beyond the petition to give us an idea of the real change already taking place in the counties. But first, I take you to the Supreme Court where James Smart is standing by. James, what do you have for us?
Well, indeed, the battle of the Titans, as it was correctly destined, that has happened today in the Supreme Court. Just day one, setting the rules, the ground rules of the game, and it appears the divide is there, and the battle, as it were, has already been set. Here at the Supreme Court, I'll be speaking with someone on the know. If you like, we'll be able to break down the legal jargon, what has happened today, what it means, and what to look forward tomorrow. That is what I'll be doing here from the Supreme Court. To stay with us. Now, hand you over to my colleague Ashamwilu from our City Center studio.
Thank you, James. Far from the Supreme Court, something that Kenyans will be watching out for this Thursday, swearing in of members of the National Assembly and the Senate. And of course, this is the first time in the last 5 years that Kenya will have a strong opposition in Parliament, and all political parties, the two major coalitions, are preparing for this. This is what I have in store for you later on in the bulletin. Back to you, Betty, in studio.
Well, thank you very much, James Smart and Ashamwilu. We'll be looking forward to those discussions. But first, let's take a look at the highlights.
There shall be a scrutiny of all Form 34s.
Supreme contest, heated arguments at housekeeping session. Battle for Parliament, Jubilee and Court head for retreat. The price of poverty. Did she sell her 2-week-old baby? Still in the program, why new MPs want their pay reviewed. Welcome to the program. I'm Betty Kyalom. Now, it was always going to be a day of high drama, and it was, as the country's top court set the stage for a landmark petition that could redefine the country's electoral system. The Supreme Court has set the ground rules for the hearing of a petition challenging the declaration of Uhuru Kenyatta as the winner of the March 4th election. On this day, when the historic petition began to take shape, Attorney General Githu Muigai was allowed to join the case as a friend of the court. This amid opposition by the court legal team. The 6-judge bench also ordered for the retallying of presidential ballots in 22 polling centers. Also, during the status conference, the court promised to rule on the introduction of a 900-page affidavit filed by the court containing details of alleged doctoring of presidential election results. As the legal battle raged on in court, rival Jubilee and court teams braced for yet another battle to be staged in Parliament. The parties will tomorrow embark on separate retreats to strategize on how to take charge of the two houses that are set to open officially on Thursday. KTN's Rita Tinina begins our comprehensive coverage of this historic event.
The pre-trial conference was supposed to be a housekeeping session, but setting the rules of engagement ended up being a day's affair. The morning session saw counsel for parties in the presidential petition advance various arguments on, among other issues, whether or not the Attorney General and the LSK should be enjoined as friends of the court and whether the petitions should be consolidated. And when the afternoon session got underway, the Supreme Court had its orders ready.
There shall be a retallying of the presidential votes in the 22 polling stations using the Forms 34 and Forms 36.
The retallying will be done tomorrow. The results will be filed on Wednesday.
There shall be a scrutiny of all Form 34s which were used by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission in tallying the presidential vote from each of the 33,400 polling stations.
On whether or not the Attorney General and the LSK should be enjoined as friends of the court.
The Attorney General is admitted to the status of amicus curiae in the petitions before the court. B. The application by the Law Society of Kenya for admission to the status of amicus curiae is disallowed.
On the consolidation of the three petitions,
we hereby therefore order the consolidation of the three petitions. The file for petition number 5 shall be deemed to be the pilot file in which all proceedings shall be recorded and the final decision made therein.
the afternoon orders were followed by the hearing of applications. An application by Raila Odinga's lawyers ordering a forensic audit of the equipment used by the IEBC during the election generated heated legal arguments.
What time is there between now and Saturday to conduct any kind of forensic audit which has to be done and produced before the hearing of the petition?
This evidence, which is material to the determination of this petition and which is in the custody of IEBC alone, should be produced.
We submit that it is shopping and fishing for evidence.
The first question that this court must ask is there a legal and factual basis for undertaking a forensic audit? And we submit that none has been laid.
The prayers they are seeking are really extraordinary. Look at prayer 2. That this honorable court be pleased to issue an order directing the first and second respondent, the services origin, to deliver to the honorable court. To deliver to the honorable court and do what?
And my Lord, we are not fishing. Those are their own records that will show us why those devices failed.
Counsel Fred Ngatia, representing Uhuru Kenyatta, and Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi for the IEBC chairman Isaac Hassan, sought the court's direction on what they termed as an attempt by the petitioner to introduce new issues in a piecemeal manner.
Would this honorable court allow complaints made within time, responded to within time, to be amplified by other complaints made out of time?
There is no provision in the rules of this court for a petitioner to file an affidavit in response to the response by the respondent.
The court will tomorrow morning rule on whether Professor Yashpal Gai of Katiba Institute will be enjoined as a friend of the court and whether Isaac Alucher will be allowed to be a co-petitioner in the case. The presidential petition will be heard on Wednesday and Thursday, with the Supreme Court allocating a total of 15 hours to the hearing of the historic petition. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Thank you very much, Rita, for that detailed report. We now cross over to James Smart, who's standing by at the Supreme Court to give us a breakdown of this case. James, over to you.
All right, indeed. Thank you very much, Betty. I'm just outside the Supreme Court where that titanic battle just took place a few hours ago and just taken rest and about to continue tomorrow. And I'm joined by Ambrose, with the LSK council member and advocate. Ambrose, this is supposed to be a date for setting rules, case management, but as it appeared to us, and 40 million Kenyans, it was an all-out war.
Yes, today was a day of setting down the ground rules. Now, as you set down those ground rules, each party tries to get an edge, because it is on the basis of those ground rules that the argument will be put in place. For instance, if you are told you'll take 30 minutes in arguments, when you feel you want 2 hours, this is the time to protest and say, look, I don't want this, I don't want that. Again, this is the time when all other issues are sorted out, so that on the third day, it will be pure arguments, hearing the case within the 2 days.
All right, and speaking of it, the first thing that we had today was that curious case of the amicus curiae, if you like, the Attorney General and the Law Society of Kenya, which you remember too, were applying to be friends of the court.
Yes.
The Attorney General was allowed, the LSK was not allowed. But first, Kenya is asking, why would the LSK and AG want to be the friends of the court anyway?
Now, let me explain to you what an amicus curiae is. It's a friend of the court. Now, our court system is called adversarial, meaning the judge does not enter into the arena. The two sides, the two protagonists, they put their cases and the judge decides. Now, when putting their cases, each side wants to win. Do you understand? And that means that a party will not give that evidence or that material that would actually injure his or her own case. Now, in those circumstances, the court can have some resource people who are friends. A friend of the court who will put any material, because he's not interested in the outcome, but is interested in assisting the court to reach a just and fair decision. So that is how the Attorney General can come in as a friend of the court. That is how the Law Society, while discharging its mandate under Section 4 of the LSK Act, would come as a friend of the court. Unfortunately, this time round, one of the LSK officials had sworn an affidavit in support of the court petition. Now, I think that the other side, the other people took into account, and therefore they said, in the circumstances of this case, therefore, LSK would not be taken to be a friend of the court. It looked like it had taken sides, but it was not the entire LSK. It was just that one of them has entered the arena. And in deciding whether there is bias, even an appearance of bias is bad enough. That is why, for the first time, we lost it, and it's very painful to us who are in the Law Society. But
that will say what happens to that. But get to the next issue that had to be dealt with today, the issue of collapsing all the petitions into one case. That's another thing that took place today. And again, just wondering, we have hundreds, and many parties interested in this, in either petitioning it or responding to it. Why was it important to have it as one case? Now, there were 3 other petitions apart from the petition by the Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Now, the petition by the Prime Minister is actually the central petition, the main thing. But alongside that petition, ancillary to that petition, there were other issues that arose, and people filed petitions that relate to the election. For instance, there's a petition that seeks to an interpretation of the court to decide whether spoiled votes are actually supposed to be counted or excluded. So in order to decide all these together, because one has a bearing on the other, it was in the interest of management of time, management of justice, in the interest of justice, to ensure that they are all put together. But if you look at it, the core case is that one by the Prime Minister. And then the final thing that happened today that was extremely important was the affidavit that was attached, the 900-page affidavit that was attached by Oraro, as saying it's a response to the response that was given by the respondents in the original petition, that is this petition. And that it was a huge thing that up to now has to be decided, and where we are right now. Explain to me how that affidavits work, and what are the judges be looking at in making that decision tomorrow? Now, in filing the presidential petition, there is constraint of time. There's a time limit. Within 7 days, you have to file your petition together with supporting documents. The other side has to be served, and they have to file theirs within a set time.
Now, within that set time, each party is supposed to bring all the necessary documents. What apparently the court team did was that they looked at the documents that the others had filed, the other side had filed, and I think alongside they discovered that there are other new material that they needed to bring before the court. So they prepared and filed an affidavit. Now that affidavit, the other side, the respondents were of the view that he needed first of all authority from the court. Secondly, it is like he's bringing a new case, and therefore they were asking the court to expunge it, to strike it out so that the hearing proceeds. The gist of the argument was that that would require that they also given time to respond to it, and that would go beyond the time that the Constitution gives.
But the arguments we had today,
yes.
Just very quickly, from the Jubilee Coalition saying, listen, this is a new evidence, it's mutating the case
yes.
and changing the nature of the petition.
Yes.
But Oraro's argument
yes.
was such that says that you responded to what I said earlier,
yes.
and part of what you said
yes.
is I'm just attaching and annexing
yes.
it.
Yes.
You're saying that the elections, for instance, yes. the electronic system failed because of system ABC. I'm just attaching that
yes.
as part of what you said.
Yes.
So that is the conversation that you're going to have now.
Yes.
So what's the court looking at?
Now, as at now, the court is going to look at whether the act of filing that affidavit was proper. Then the court is also going to look at the content. Does it mutate the case into something else, the petition to something else, or it adds flesh to the original petition filed by the court? If the court is of the view that it has mutated the case, it is bringing a new dimension to the case, the court can decide to expand it. If the court is of the view that it is only adding meat to the original petition, then the court would actually allow it. The court will also have to look at whether filing it without authority is wrong, and therefore they should strike it out. Now, looking at the intensity and the importance of this case, I don't see the court being very technical. I see the court trying to look at the substantive justice, and that means that procedural mistakes that a party may have done may actually be overlooked for the sake of the country, for the sake of the 40 million Kenyans. Because you'll find if, for instance, you strike out that affidavit, the Prime Minister will say, that is where my petition was rotating. The one you have excluded, that is where I would have won the petition. So maybe to avoid all those things, the court may decide, let us look at the substance, let us look at the overall value of the petition and the response, and then make a final decision.
And Rosfella, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Today, the court has ended in, another striking note
yes.
To decide on time.
Yes.
You say we have 15 hours to decide, and we're giving party A 2 hours, 15 minutes. We're giving you another 1 hour to respond, and so on and so forth.
Yes, yes.
As of now, that's a source of serious disagreement,
yes.
if you like, and the court has tomorrow decide on this issue among those issues.
Yes.
If you had to give a summary of what happened today,
yes.
why would they say we are in terms of case management?
If you look at the time, let me first of all tell you that if you give me an opportunity to argue as a lawyer whether the mic I'm holding is blue or navy blue or green, we can advance arguments for 2 days. Do you understand? Such that the court must come out clearly and say, look, you will have 1 hour, so and so will have another hour, so that we are able to finish within the 2 days, and then the court has time. So in terms of case management, they had to do that, and there will be arguments. But the court has the final say. They have the final say to say, well, this is the way we are going to do it, and you have to follow, whether you complain.
According to the data by the Petroleum Institute of East Africa, the market shares of the 4 major oil firms in the country have shrunk over the last 10 years, while those of middle-tier oil marketers have been growing. The PIA figure shows that Total Kenya, with a market share of 21.4%, was the leading marketer as of December 2012. Kenol Kobil at 20.8% is the second largest, followed by Vivo Energy, formerly Kenya Shell, with 17.1%, and Oil Libya controlling 7.7% of the market for a combined market share of 67%. While this is still huge and a clear show that the four still dominate the Kenyan petroleum market, it is a far cry from the 85% combined market share that they held a few years ago. The tables have turned in the recent years, with small oil marketing firms growing their market share significantly, while the majors have either stagnated or seen their market shares come down. According to industry analysts, this is down to maturity of the market that allows well-capitalized players access to the lucrative petroleum sector. Among the firms that have benefited from the change in fortunes of the oil majors include Bakri, that has a market share of 4.6%, Gulf Energy 4%, and Hashi Energy 3.7%. But the growth has not been without its challenges, with dilapidated oil infrastructure a major concern to all players. Local marketers also enjoy greater flexibility in decision-making that could give them a competitive edge in the market going forward. Michael Karanja, KTN Business Today.
Shares of National Bank plunged 11% at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, following a 53% fall in pre-tax profit in its full-year financial results. The firm's profits fell from 1.15 billion the previous year to only 730 million shillings in the year under review. Now, the drop in profitability makes the bank the only listed financial institution to report a profit drop in 2012. The drop was largely attributed to higher lending rates as its cost of funds grew at a faster pace than interest income. The listed bank's cost of funds tripled to 3.7 billion shillings compared to 1.4 billion shillings in 2011, while interest income grew by a third to 8.4 billion shillings. The bank's loan book stood at 28.3 billion shillings, relatively flat growth compared to the 28.1 billion shillings a year earlier. National Bank is also mooting plans to have a rights issue in 2014 to fund expansion. Now, Mombasa Cement Company's distributor Tough Steel has introduced new trucks that will supply cement products in bulk to its consumers. The company launched fleets of trucks that will be distributing bulk cement in a move aimed at reducing the packaging cost, the product pricing, and to ensure an eco-friendly process. Mombasa Cement becomes the second after Bamburi Cement to introduce a bulk distribution of cement. Bulk cement supply has become a hit with large housing construction and road projects in the country. Mukesh Patel, Managing Director Tough Steel, said through the bulk distribution of the cement, the company will be saving on packaging costs and will be directly helping the environment. Now, Jitu Joshi, Mombasa Company Plant Manager at Athi River, said the move will lower the cost of cement and will give the market maker an advantage over their competitors.
We will be, within a month, we'll be moving about 1,500 to 1,800 tons a week in only Nairobi. And opposed to, currently we are selling in the region of 15,000 tons of bagged cement, minimum, in Kenya. And all this cement is delivered to the doorstep on a daily basis without any delays or anything.
And finally, in business, let's now take a look at the financial markets. Well, that's it from business, but coming up shortly is a look at the latest sporting action.
On KTN Sports Today tonight, we'll be giving you more details on the arrival of Harambee Stars from Lagos and, of course, a reaction from the wild winning team from the Coast Country side. The KP League went on as usual, and the table standings I'll also be giving you later on KTN Sports Today, not forgetting international news from all over the world. All that on KTN Sports Today.
It is absolutely important, and it cannot be negotiable, that the authority of this court shall and must be respected at all times by Wanjiku, by the high and mighty. And I hope that is clear. So you will have to go by the authority and the orders of this court.
Wondering which career path to take after KCSE? The Standard newspaper will publish a special pullout that will guide parents and school leavers on the most suitable courses offered by various institutions of higher learning. Find a variety of courses, colleges and career choices you can make all in one supplement. This and much more with your copy of The Standard.
Welcome to another episode of the Guinness Football Challenge.
This is the third season of the Guinness Football Challenge.
And of course, we have 4 teams here tonight. This is looking like child's play. That one is in!
KTN Sports Today, in association with Guinness.
He believes a man's name finds its meaning not in what he says, but in what he does. A name that is made of more.
Welcome back. Time for sports. Now, the national football team was, for the first time in many years, accorded a reception like no other when they arrived from Nigeria. Kenya came close to causing an upset but settled for a 1-1 draw with the African champions last Saturday in a World Cup qualifier in Calabar, Nigeria. And today, the team became 2 million shillings richer after President-elect Uhuru Kenyatta and Nairobi Senator-elect Gideon Mbuvi, aka Mike Sonko, made good their pledge to reward the team with 1 million shillings each. Francis Kahata, the scorer of Kenya's lone goal, received 100 shillings from Mike Sonko. Team coach Adel Amrush said he will not change the team during the return leg in June.
I return now. I start to work with this player. You know, players here never will talk about adversary. The first is our team. We talk about adversary the day of the game. No, players here, you can ask him. Play Nigeria or Brazil, we respect all the team, but the first is our team, our family, and there are also other players. Now the league start, we take the performance players. The players performance, we take it. When we have the team, we have the future, we have the youth. I know. Now the other potential. The first, now we form very good group, family, positive thinking, you know. And you can see there are many players. The first selection you play. This is future.
Now, just for the record, the scorer of the lone goal, Kahata, was actually given 100,000 shillings extra. Let's now move on to other news. Former 5-time world cross-country champion John Ngugi has lauded the Kenyan team to the just concluded World Cross-Country Championships in Poland. Ngugi, who ruled the senior men's cross-country tracks for 5 successive years between 1986 and 1989, told KTN today that Japhet Korir's victory in Bydgoszcz on Sunday underlined how Kenya will for a long time be a force to reckon with. Ngugi, however, cautioned against complacency, especially in the wake of continued challenge by Ethiopian athletes.
Broken the spirit of the Ethiopian. Kenya's Faith Chemngetich, Emily Chebet and Japhet Korir clinched gold medals in the junior women, senior women and men's senior race at the 41st World Cross Country Championships in Bydgoszcz, Poland. And the man who has been there and done that 5 times, John Ngugi, was watching with nostalgia, and his verdict was that Kenya will rule the cross-country scene for some time.
naona kama mazoezi walikuwa wamefanya mazoezi mzuri na walikuwa wamejitahidi mzuri, na tena tunashukuru vile training walipata Kegari, wamefanya training mzuri kwa wakati wetu. Najua bio kama hivyo ilikuwa kama 1992 Boston cross country ilikuwa ngumu kama hiyo, kwa vile ilikuwa snow mingi na ilikuwa kamulima kama hiyo. Mimi niliona kama ni mimi niliwin, kwa vile walifanya mzuri, nikaona ni kama vile nilikuwa na win, na vile nilikuwa na shida, na vile nikaona ushindi wao ni kama nimeshida.
Athletics Kenya chairman Isaiah Kiplagat has also congratulated the world beaters. Kiplagat says that their performance has put pressure not only on the association but on the athletes who will be selected for the World Championships in Russia in August.
And this is a point that at least we have people that some of those athletes maybe will get a place in the team. In fact, one of them was Korir, the one that won the seniors, says he wants to participate in the 5,000 meters in the World Championships if he qualifies during our trials.
Kiplagat says the first assignment after the team arrives on Tuesday is to shortlist a pool of athletes from where the August World Championships teams will be selected.
One of the strategies we are coming up with is to identify all the probables in all categories, and that list will be out by, let me say, Wednesday this week.
AKA sponsors will host the World Cross Country team to a welcome dinner on Tuesday evening. Joshua Kimboy, KTN Sports Today.
Gor Mahia will play their second Kenya Premier League match on Wednesday against former champions Ulinzi Stars. Defending champions, who together with Gor Mahia have been busy with their continental assignments, will play their second match on Saturday, March 30th. Bandari KCB jumped back to the top of the table on Sunday after edging out Karuturi Sports 1-0. The Bankers have 11 points to better than second-placed Chemelil Sugar and Thika United. Thika United, however, have an inferior goal difference. League returnees and enjoying fourth place with 8 points. Bandari won their last match 3-2 against Homeboys. Muhoroni Youth, whose match with AFC Leopards has been rescheduled to March 30th from March 31st, are separated by 2 points, with Muhoroni Youth on top of the Leopards. Mathare United, who have only drawn 2 matches, lead from the tail, followed by title holders Tusker, who have only played a match.
Because if they do not decide the petition within this week, then the president-elect will be sworn in, and the decision after that will be unconstitutional. It will be actually null and void. Any decision beyond the constitutional period is null and void. In other words, useless.
All right.
Yes.
Ambrose Weda,
thank you.
Clearly you're amicus mediae, friend of the media. Thank you very much. Speaking there to Ambrose Weda, advocate and LSK council member. That's how case has been treated today. We'll do this obviously tomorrow. To you, Betty.
Well, thank you very much, James Smart, for that detailed overview of what exactly has been happening today at the Supreme Court. And tomorrow, of course, we will demystify all these issues for our audience. That is tomorrow when those proceedings resumes. Now, with just 2 days left before the official swearing in and the first sitting of the Senate, preparations are in high gear in readiness for the big day. The Kenyatta International Conference Center, which will in the meantime house the Senate, was abuzz with activity as the senators-elect were taken through a rehearsal of the activities that will be happening during the official Senate sessions. The closed-door session included the briefing of senators-elect on the Senate standing orders and the rundown of the swearing-in ceremony on Thursday. The Senate will be holding its session at the KICC until the renovation of the old Parliament chambers is complete towards the end of the year.
Originate legislation, how they'll provide oversight over counties, and how they will be looking at legislations emanating from counties.
The mood in the Senate was very good. Most of the people have been here before. They are senators. The swearing-in ceremony is done on the basis of seniority. So the most senior ones are the ones who are sworn first.
Well, we now want to cross over to Asha Mwilu, who's standing by at our City Center studios to just give us a breakdown and a run-through of what exactly politicians are doing in preparations of the ruling from the Supreme Court. Asha.
Yeah, thanks, Betty. Well, right now it's all about the battle to control Parliament, and what we know is that the two main coalitions are now intensifying their lobbying for positions in Parliament ahead of the official opening of the National Assembly and the Senate. Well, Jubilee coalitions and its allies will be heading to Naivasha tomorrow for a retreat, while CORD will on Wednesday meet in Karen here in Nairobi to strategize on how to win the crucial seats in both the National Assembly and in the Senate. Here are the details. The Jubilee and CORD coalitions will spend the next 2 days in retreats planned for the elected and nominated members of the National Assembly and the Senate. Led by President-elect Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto, Jubilee will meet in Naivasha, while CORD will be at the Cooperative College in Karen, led by its flag bearer Raila Odinga. Top on the agenda of these retreats will be to strategize on how to win crucial seats in Parliament once members of the National Assembly and the Senate are sworn in Thursday. Other than the highly contested Speaker's seats that have sent the two main protagonists into intense lobbying, candidates that will sit in key parliamentary committees will also feature predominantly. The race to control Parliament also took a new turn, with Jubilee coalition entering into a post-election pact with the new Ford Kenya ahead of the Naivasha retreat.
We are going to go out of our way to ensure that we create a government both in and outside Parliament that is going to be inclusive and that's going to bring the majority of Kenyans on board.
We believe this is the biggest task ahead of you and ahead of all of us to unite this country, to make an all-inclusive government that will unite everybody in Kenya.
Even before the retreats, however, various candidates eyeing the Speaker's seats were already lobbying their coalitions for support. In the National Assembly, Jubilee faces the heavy task of selecting between their two front-runners, Justin Muturi of TNA and Abdikader Mohammed from Mudavadi's UDF, which Jubilee has been courting for a post-election pact. CORD, on the other hand, only has Kenneth Marende going for that seat. In the Senate, the battle will be between URP's Francis Ole Kaparo, Ekwe Thuro and ODM's Farah Maalim.
I've served in all the major committees of the House. In fact, most of them chairing them. And the most important one as a member of the House and Procedures Committee and the Temporary Speakers panel.
I believe my experience and my past as the Deputy Speaker of the Kenya National Assembly through some very trying times when we had to move on the operationalization of the new Constitution, the implementation of the Constitution. I have what it takes. And I've said this with the support of Kenyans.
As to whether or not I have the necessary experience, the necessary capacity and ability to do this job, I think my record speaks for itself.
Legislators will be choosing a Deputy Speaker of Parliament, a Deputy Speaker of the Senate. Qualifications will be more paramount. Experience in the House will be more paramount.
I'm pretty sure by the time we get in as a CORD group, we will have agreed on who our representatives are for those two positions, and I will be lobbying very strongly internally for the Deputy Speaker.
The attention of the country is slowly shifting to the 11th Parliament, which will have a very crucial role over the next 4 years. For instance, the executive would have to seek the approval of the National Assembly before appointing cabinet ministers and other state officers. And it's for this reason that a sitting president would need a friendly National Assembly as well as a friendly Senate to run his day-to-day activities. And analysts say that the election of the speakers on Thursday will be the first of many showdowns that we should expect from the 11th Parliament. Asha Mwilu, KTN, Nairobi. Of course, Betty, as you've seen in that story, it's all about the battle to control the National Assembly and the Senate, because they're very crucial. They play a very crucial role within the next 4 years. As we know, the last government was a coalition government, and so we didn't have really a formidable opposition in Parliament. And now under the new constitution, the National Assembly will have even a greater power, because it will have to approve the appointees from the executive side, that's the cabinet secretary, and other very crucial state officers. And so this is why the sitting president really wants to have a parliament that he can sort of like control, you know, have his allies there, so that when he wants to pass a bill, when he wants some names approved, he has an upper hand in either the National Assembly or the Senate. Betty.
Well, thank you very much, Asha Mwilu. Asha is coming to us right from our Ayindam studio, our City Center studios, and of course she has been telling us about the power games in terms of the National Assembly, a very detailed report that she has given us. And we still want to keep the MPs and the legislators still in check, and now concentrating on their salary rows. And even before the dust from the general election settles, well, some leaders, as you probably know, are grumbling over the salaries awarded to them by the Salaries Remuneration Commission. Now, extreme pay cuts for new members by the Commission have now sparked fresh salary review demands, as new legislators claim the rates are too demeaning. Now, to address the discontent, a number of the newly elected members of Parliament and members from the Parliamentary Service Commission met officials of the Salary and Remuneration Commission to convey sentiments of parliamentarians on the new pay structure. Now, on their part, the Salaries Remuneration Commission asked that the legislators to compile a report indicating why the Commission, as our graphics show, should review their salary packages upwards. Now, according to information that we have been able to attain, the legislators are currently working on the report, which will be ready for presentation before the Salary Remuneration Commission by Wednesday this week. But even with that taking place, there has been a tug of war between the PSC and the SRC. Now, a section of MPs alleged that the Parliamentary Service Commission should be in charge of their pay structure, with the SRC taking charge of other public servants' wages. However, going back to the Constitution, this reasoning is definitely faulty. Now, the Parliamentary Service Commission is responsible for providing services and facilities to ensure the efficient and effective functioning of Parliament. Nothing to do with the pay structure, at least under the new Constitution. Now, the SRC, on the other hand, is mandated to, among other things, regularly review the remuneration and benefits of all state officers and actually advise the national and county governments on the remuneration and benefits of all other public officers. Well, this indeed showcases that, contrary to a section of legislators, the SRC is right in handling matters remuneration. As for now, we await the decision, which will be, of course, be reached upon on whether the MPs' salaries will be reviewed upwards. That's for now, and that story leads us to a big question tonight, and we ask, should MPs be left to control their